Hello, my beautiful friends, and welcome to the first official episode of Tales of Tigrosa. I am your host, Sydney Foltz, and I am recording this episode from my beautiful little mountain home in the Sacred Valley of Peru. Now, I wanted this first episode to be a really beautiful, vulnerable, and intimate share about what the last 5 years has had in store for me. So this is the story of how I went from being a burnt out comedian actress living in Chicago to embarking on the path of a medicine woman here in Peru. Now, for this story, I would like to invite in the energy of trust and the feminine spirit of trust, the feminine way of trust. Because when the feminine works with trust, she doesn't trust thinking that she needs to gain a certain result or expectation, but she trusts by following the deeper call in her soul and her heart, knowing that God is leading her towards her destiny and knowing that there are beautiful gifts and magic that lie in the great mystery ahead. So I want to invite in that spirit today because that has been my anchor throughout the crazy, wild journey I've had the past 5 years. So welcome to my personal journey of truly learning to let go and let God and not let the conformative norms of society stop me from following the deeper calling of my soul, the deeper calling of my heart, and the trust I have with life and with myself. All right, so let's go back to 2019. I was living in Chicago where I had lived my entire life. I was a comedian, an actress, and a voice actor, working 3 day jobs that were just not inspiring. I was working 80 hours a week, waitressing, bartending, a brand ambassador for an awesome distillery. I was also babysitting a lot. Plus, I was running a podcast. Plus, I was going on countless auditions, performing late night shows around the city, and I reached a point of ultimate burnout and exhaustion. I mean, I didn't even have a moment to sit down and enjoy my meal. I remember every single meal I had, I was like shoving food in my mouth on the train to go from one job to another. Or maybe I was hiding in the back room of the restaurant, eating people's leftovers from the guests that I was serving. And I just remember I had gone weeks and weeks without a day off. And I hit a breaking point where I was like, there is no way this is it. There is no way that I have created this life for myself where I can't even sit down and take a breath and enjoy the pleasures of life. And I was doing all of this to make ends meet because I thought I had to. And it was in that moment that I received the greatest invitation of my life. My aunt, who works with many different maestros in the Amazon jungles of Peru, had invited me to come and sit with one of her maestros in a traditional dieta. For those who don't know what a dieta is when you devote a long period of time to working with a specific master plant while working alongside ayahuasca. You completely cut out like all of the fun foods, salt, spices, sex, alcohol, drugs, all of that, so that you can show up a clean and pure temple to work with the magic and the wisdom of the plants. Now, when this invitation came in, I had no idea what it meant. I was like, ayahuasca, what's that? Like, I had never done plant medicine before. I didn't even know what this dieta truly was, but all I knew was that I had a resounding full body, yes, you are meant to go and have this experience. And so I applied, got accepted, and just trusted in the journey. So in December of 2019, I traveled for the first time to South America. Actually, no, it wasn't the first time. I had been to Colombia before, but my first time in the Amazon. And I had traveled to the Amazon jungles of Peru to sit this dieta. And it was one of those things where it's like, you know, you take 3 flights, you get off the plane in Iquitos, a taxi picks you up, then you hop on a boat in a river, you drive on this boat for like, I don't know, maybe it was like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then you hike 30 minutes up into the jungle to get to this place. Like it was deep in the Amazon. And I remember when I got there, I was terrified. Like I was so scared because, there was barely any Wi-Fi. I was like alone in this little tombo in the jungle, hearing all these jungle noises for the first time. And there was just a lot of fear that was coming up. But I don't think it was fear from like the actual situation itself. I think it was the part of me that knew so much of me was going to die within these 2 weeks. And that I was going to come back a completely different woman. So those 2 weeks in that dieta were some of the most difficult 2 weeks of my life. I remember I had such a hard time really experiencing love and light, essentially. Like my soul was so ready to go to work that for 2 weeks, I had just dove into the depths of all of the grief, all of the pain, all of the victimhood, all of the limiting beliefs that I had, stored in my body and in my soul from my lived experience so far on earth. And I remember by the end of the dieta, I had come to this incredible place where I was like, I don't want any of the life I've created anymore. All I want is to heal and grow with Mother Earth. And so I came back to Chicago with that intention that this would be my last year living in the city and that I would create a life for myself where I get to get my hands dirty in the earth, be on Team Pachamama, live a more purposeful, fulfilling life, and really devote myself to caring for her and learning how to heal and grow with her. Now, during this whole dieta, Aya was showing me all of the places that I needed to clean up my life. She was showing me the holes in the socks that I had in my sock drawer. She was showing me selling everything that I had ever owned, what projects to transition out of, what relationships to transition out of, and all of that. And so I came back to Chicago with this incredible light emanating out of me and this whole new perspective and this whole new purpose of what I wanted my life to be. But I had no idea what that looked like. And so I got back to Chicago and immediately I was getting the feeling of just start selling your stuff. Start letting your family and community know that you're going to be leaving Chicago, even if you don't know where yet. So I did. I started slowly selling my things. I started kind of planting the seeds with my friends, with my partner at the time, with my family of like, hey, like, I'm most likely not going to be here in a year and I don't know what that looks like. And so I spent the next 6 months just continuing to sell everything that I owned, continuing to transition out of my projects. But it was really interesting because during those 6 months, I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, like I at the time thought, I'm going to need some money. Like I'm going to need some savings to be able to, feel safe to go and embark on this great mystery. And so January of 2020 until about March 2020, I was just looking for a job that I could work for a year, that I would be able to save up enough money and then leave within the next year. And let me tell you, I was applying to so many different jobs, different art galleries, being a theater teacher, being, teaching improv classes for kids, like you name it, I was searching for it. And I wasn't able to find anything. Until March, where I had gotten this free pass to go to this luxury gym in Chicago and spend the day in the luxury gym. And little insight about me is that working out is a big part of my life, and exercise and fitness is definitely a huge resource for me for feeling good within my body and within my soul. So I was like, yeah, I'll spend a day at this luxury gym. And oh my God, I got a free personal training session. I got to attend a free class. I went into the eucalyptus steam room. Everything was just so luxurious and so beautiful. And I just kind of had this thought of, I should ask them if they're hiring. And they were looking for a sales manager position. And I was like, oh, perfect. It was this sweet gig where they would fly me to New York to go and train. I would get to, be put up in New York, do the whole experience. I would get free personal training, free access to the gym. I was like, well, great. This is a job with amazing perks. But it was a sales job. And a part of me knew it would be soul sucking. So I went through the multiple interview processes and they eventually were like, we'd love to hire you. And I was like, yay, great. So that was one option for work. Another really beautiful aspect of this experience was I had been a voice actor for an agency for about 2 years now. and I hadn't landed a gig. I had been going on multiple auditions. Sometimes I'd go months without auditions, and then I'd have to email my agents, and I'd kind of have to like work my way up in the agency to be seen and be noticed. And there was one audition I got about a month after I had returned from my dieta, and it was for a Starbucks commercial. And I remember I was like, okay, this one, I'm going to go to my agent's office and I'm going to record it at my agent's office. And as I was leaving to go out the door and go record this podcast episode, something within me was like, before you leave, go to your altar and send a prayer. So I remember I was bent down at my altar, hands at my heart, and I was like, God, I completely trust your path and your journey for me. And I would like to ask for your help and support. If this commercial is truly meant for me, if I'm truly meant to be the voice of this product, I ask for your help and support in allowing me to book this commercial and receive this incredible amount of resources to be able to support me on my journey and, you know, the new life that I'm creating for myself. To share a little bit, it was a 30-second commercial that paid almost $5,000. An hour of work for $5,000. Pretty incredible. So I remember I left the house and I'm walking to my agency's office in downtown Chicago. And there were a few really powerful signs that presented themselves to me. I remember there was this puppet show going on right outside the building of my agent's office. And there was a tiger puppet doing a tiger puppet show in the little puppet box. And for those who don't know, tigers are a huge spirit animal of mine. And it was actually during that dieta that I sat in December where I really initiated myself with the tigers. I met my spirit tiger. I like integrated all the aspects of the tiger within myself, especially the ferocity. And so out of the puppet box, this man brings the tiger puppet out of the box and waves to me, like full on waves to me specifically. And I was like, that's super cool. I was like, I take that as a great sign. So then I go up into my agent's office and I remember I was practicing the audition while I was waiting to go and record. And this random woman who I had never seen before comes up to me and says, sounds like you booked the gig, and gave me a little wink. Then I went into my agent's office, recorded the commercial. We did it in one take. They were like, that was fantastic. That was great. All we need is this take. So I left, and then like every audition ever, just completely forgot about it and went on living my life. Then come a few months later, in March, I get an email from my agents saying that I booked the commercial, and I was beyond ecstatic and beyond bliss. I had booked my very first commercial, and it was an international commercial for Starbucks. If y'all don't believe me, you can Google Sydney Foltz cold brew concentrates on Google and find the commercial yourself. And I remember when I went in to go and record this commercial, I felt like an absolute queen. I went into this high-rise building, and the woman at the front desk was like, can I get you tea? Can I get you water, sparkling water? Like, what would you want? And I was like, tea is just fine. And then I go into the recording studio. They're waiting for me. They've made it so cozy and comfortable. And I'm talking to the director on the other end. And she was like, we just want you to know that we listened to hundreds of voices and we kept coming back to yours. And then I spent an hour recording the commercial. It was fantastic. They loved it. And I got my payment, and I was just so beyond excited. Now, fast forward to March 2020. So I had just booked this incredible Starbucks gig, and now I have a job with this luxury gym. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm just going to do this. I'll keep doing voiceover when I can, and I'll sign this job with the luxury gym. And so on the day that I was about to sign this contract for a soul-sucking job at the luxury gym, COVID happened, and stay-at-home order was ordered. And, you know, the luxury gym calls me and they're like, hey, COVID, like, we're on an indefinite hiring freeze. And I was like, okay, interesting. Now we enter the COVID vortex. And I remember like a couple days into COVID, I still had one of my part-time jobs that obviously now I had lost, because I was a brand ambassador for a distillery where I would go to different events and support, like share the alcohol product that was there, which really wasn't a passion of mine, but it was just kind of like a nice little gig that I could keep around for a while I make just a little bit of extra money while I figure out what I'm doing with my life. And so I lost my job from there, and then I filed for unemployment, and I got unemployment from that part-time job. Then throughout the COVID experience, I booked 4 more Starbucks commercials. And at the time, I was babysitting for doctors 3 days a week. So all I was doing during COVID was selling my things, manifesting, praying, anchoring in sovereignty, coming into this beautiful space of what I wanted to create for my life while I was making this passive income from unemployment, while I was making this money from Starbucks that really only required an hour of my time, and babysitting for the family I loved 3 days a week. So at this point in my life, I was doing the least amount of work and making the most amount of money I had ever made in my entire life. And I knew at that point, God was loading me up for something incredible. So fast forward to 6 months into 2020, the COVID thing's still happening. I'm still making bank. I'm still selling all my things. I'm still on this path of, okay, what's next? And I remember I was saying a lot of prayers of like, God, angels, show me what's next. Show me where to go. And at this point I thought, oh, maybe I'd move to Colorado or maybe like Northern California and just like learn herbalism or work for like a cool environmental company or like something like that. Then one day I get a phone call from my mother and she's like, oh my God, Sydney, you have to watch Down to Earth with Zac Efron, episode 3, Costa Rica. It's totally your vibe. And I was like, okay. And then I never watched the episode. 2 weeks later, she calls me and she's like, did you watch the episode? And I was like, no, not yet. She's like, do it right now. I'm telling you, Sydney, do it right now. And so I did. So I sat down on my couch and I put on episode 3 of Down to Earth with Zac Efron, season 1, the episode of Costa Rica. And I remember watching that episode, and there was a specific part where he went to this beautiful permaculture farm called Punta Mona. And I remember when I watched that episode, my entire body lit up. And I was like, that's it. That is the life I want to create for myself. I'm doing it. I'm going to Punta Mona. I'm going to Costa Rica. That's what's next. It's so funny. My mother always jokes. She's like, sometimes I regret telling you that because you left the United States and blah, blah, blah. But she really is the beautiful bridge and reason that found me my new journey and my new start on life. So those following 6 months, the doors of Costa Rica were still closed and nothing was really opening up yet. Like I think you could fly throughout the United States, but you couldn't quite go internationally yet. So I just remember I was just continuing to sell my things. I was letting people know, hey, I'm going to Costa Rica. I remember I was emailing the team at Punta Mona and I was like, hey, I want to come volunteer. I want to come work for you guys. Like what opportunities are available? They were really helpful, really supportive. And they were like, yeah, when we open up, we'll let you know, like, what's there. And then it came into my field, this opportunity to attend a green residency with Momentum Collective. It was like permaculture meets really fun circus school. And though it wasn't a volunteer opportunity, it was 2 months where I would get to spend at Punta Mona, having fun, doing all the circus and mindfulness and conscious classes while also learning permaculture, which is definitely something I wanted to study. And so I was like, yeah, this is it. This is where I begin my Costa Rica journey. So I applied, got in, and eventually left everything. Left my agency, left my partner, left my family, left my friends, left everything I had ever known. And I went to Costa Rica with just a backpack. So when I first got to Punta Mona, it was amazing. I remember getting off the boat and immediately everyone just stripped down naked and bathed in the ocean because it was just like, wow, look at the natural, pure beauty of this earth. Also, everyone, like this was like everyone's kind of first travel or journey since like the doors had opened after a year of stay at home quarantine, all that COVID stuff. And wow, it's going to be interesting explaining the pure magic and beauty that this experience brought me. I in this journey, every day we were eating fresh fruits off the trees. Almost every single food that entered our bodies was grown on that land. And if it wasn't, then they were getting it from other parts of Costa Rica. The chefs were incredible. The volunteers at the farm were incredible. We were learning different permaculture skills, while also like I was experiencing like breathwork classes and ecstatic dance and, learning how like contact dance and, all these classes, also around like building a regenerative life and creating community and kind of living off grid and what that looks like. Like it was just everything I could have asked for and more. And I also made the most incredible friends that I am still so close to in this experience. So for any of those who were part of that experience and were listening, like, wow, so special to be a part of it, to be a part of that experience with you all. And so by the time this journey was coming to an end, I was like kind of in this place of like, okay, what's next? I thought I kind of had a position lined up to go and volunteer at Punta Mona. But it turns out it didn't work out. And so I remember I was on my phone, like searching. I was contacting different farms in Costa Rica, like seeing what volunteer positions were out there, like just kind of navigating every sort of connection that I had at that moment. And I remember like I had this feeling of like, stop searching. And I didn't listen. And eventually I lost my phone in the river. And that's a whole story for another time because I like spent 2 hours like searching for it until I came to face with a crocodile who was like, girl, go. You're not going to get the phone. Anyways, so I left the Punta Mona experience, and for the first time in my entire life, I was in complete and utter flow. I had nothing planned, nothing ahead. I had no idea what I was doing. And to be honest, like I was kind of freaking out. A bit. I was like, it kind of hit me of like, because I was just in community for 2 months and now I'm kind of out on my own. And I was like, well, like, what do I do next? Now I'm like really on my own. I've just got this backpack. Like, what's here for me? And so Costa Rica had then brought me to the other side of the country. So in this place called Diamante Valley, where there's like a really beautiful waterfall and lots of different conscious communities. So I kind of landed there, and there was this really beautiful invitation to go on this ayahuasca vision quest, where it's like basically you are in one spot by the river for like a few days drinking ayahuasca during the day, and you're during the day too, which was a complete surprise for me and something very new. And you're just there like with yourself and the medicine. Like obviously there are people holding space. And I remember this was another journey where I was healing and clearing and purging a lot. And a lot of what I was purging during this experience was like the idea that I had to have this certain job, that I had to have this and that, like the anger I felt for like this kind of societal, like, what do you want to call it? Like a pathway, or just like this pathway of like, going to school, getting in all this debt, and then getting a job just to work to pay off the debt and get a mortgage and all this kind of like this, what I saw or what I feel is kind of like a trap that society has created for people that just isn't sustainable. It's not regenerative, and it doesn't work for the majority of the world. So I was healing and clearing a lot of that. But then I remember one of the last days, I had this like feeling of like, oh, I also came here to connect with indigenous wisdom, because healing and growing with the earth, like I wanted to learn from the indigenous, and I wanted to learn their ways and see how I could apply it to my own life. And right after that experience, my friend Hava, who I had met at Punta Mona during the Green Residency, had somehow gathered up the funding for this project to build an Usure temple for a Bribri elder back on the Caribbean coast of Costa Rica. And I was like, yes, I want to be a part of that project. I want to help. I want to volunteer. Like, what do you need from me? So I made my way back to the Caribbean coast of Costa Rica, which was where Punta Mona was. But Punta Mona at this point, it's deep in the jungle. So I was just kind of in Puerto Viejo, which is a great Afro-Caribbean town, like nestled in the Caribbean coast of Costa Rica. And I started working with Abuelo Marcelino and Hava on this incredible project where every day we would come to his land and we would help him build his sacred Usere temple. Now, Abuelo Marcelino is a Grand Awa of the Bribri tribe. So that is like kind of for lack of a better term, like highest ranking medicine man available within the Bribri culture. And it was amazing because we just got to spend every day with his family. We got to spend every day building this incredible temple. We got to spend every day learning from him, getting to know his family, getting to know his culture. And it was pretty incredible. And I had ended up finding a little jungle home tucked away in like the jungle of Costa Rica. Like this house was kind of out of the way. But I just remember it being like, yes, this is where I need to live. It was like, my friends call it the tree house. Like it was just this beautiful house nestled in the jungle. I had very little neighbors. I was kind of like the only gringo, for a little while or expat rather. And it was during this time where even though, every day or a few days a week, I was going to help Abuelo build this temple. I also felt so utterly alone. Like there was a part of me that was like, yes, even though I was like learning Spanish and learning culture and building this temple, I was like, well, what comes after this? Like, what am I going to do? Like, who am I? Like, what's going to come of this? And I really had to surrender. Like the message I was getting was like, you need to be alone. And so after the project finished, I was just alone in my jungle house, tucked away in the jungle. I had very little friends at in Puerto Viejo at this time. Like no matter how hard I put myself out there in the community, I had such a hard time making friends, which is so not normal for me. Anyone who knows me knows that's not normal. And it just really allowed me to be in the jungle and go deep within myself and really like start to discover my gifts and my magic. And so I remember during this time, I had found my shamanic Reiki teacher who's amazing. And I was diving deep into shamanic Reiki. Also at this time too, I was diving really deep into my breathwork studies and my sacred feminine mystery studies. And so I was just learning and exploring and opening up my gifts, but also grieving a lot. I was still grieving, me breaking up with my partner at the time. I was missing my family. I was missing my friends. I was like envious of people who like had their community and had their crew because I just felt so alone in the jungle. And I went through so many initiations. Like I got dengue and had to navigate that all by myself. I got crazy bacterial infection on my face as I was going through this huge release with breath work. It wasn't the breath work that caused the bacterial infection. I believe what I was releasing like through my initiation with breath work was causing my face to break out in this bacterial infection because it was clearing something, right? But I just felt so alone. But eventually I got this message that it was time to really create something for myself. And it was time to really start sharing my magic with the world. And so I birthed my business, which at the time was called Tigress Rising. And the tigress was the tiger aspect of me, that like fierce feminine archetype who walks her own path, who strides through the jungle with confidence, who likes to play and have fun, but is also, very strong and steady and takes care of the pack. And it was like she's rising, like the tigress is rising. And it was me really rising into my own power and really rising into my own embodiment of a powerful feminine being. And so I just birthed my business and I started sharing my energy healings with the world. Eventually I finished my breathwork initiation after a year of working really hard and studying really hard, sharing breathwork with the world. I was just discovering this new aspect of sovereignty within myself. Like during 2020, sovereignty had been my prayer. Like, I was like, I want to be free. I don't want to be controlled by anyone. I don't want to be under someone. Like, I want to be a free and sovereign human and live the life I want. Bada bing, bada boom. Like, what, like, entrepreneurship comes with many different things, but that's one of the things entrepreneurship comes with is freedom to live your life and build a business based around your own way of moving and navigating with life and like what feels good for you. So let's go to New Year's of 2022. So after about 6 months of me alone in the jungle, grieving my old life, awakening my gifts, I would still go and visit Abuelo after the project was done. I had finally made friends. I remember that New Year's Eve, I went to a party and I said a huge prayer. And I was like, God, give me community, open me up to community. Like, I'm ready to find my people. And it was that night that I met my crew and that I met my people and that I finally met the other people who were a part of the community on the Caribbean coast of Costa Rica. And I just made some of the best of friends. And it was truly, truly incredible. So now I was going to ecstatic dance. I was playing. I was having fun with my friends. I was, still going to Abuelo, helping him out with little projects here and there. And I was, just continuing to activate and awaken my gifts and share them with the world. And it felt really, really exciting. But it was also at this time where I started calling in my partner. And I had finally felt like I had completely grieved my last relationship and like really closed that door in my heart. And I was ready to welcome someone in. I was really ready to welcome a partner in. And of course, the man I've been calling in all these years, and especially during that time, was of the frequency of a king. But I was not quite yet in my inner queen. And so, so I was just shown all of my old patterns with the masculine. They were all coming back. They were all right up in my face. Like, all of the men I was spending my time with they were just not aligned dudes. They were very wounded themselves, dishonest, very leaky sexual energy at that time. Like, I think I even had a little bit of leaky sexual energy. And it was just like, I was like giving my energy and my body to these men who couldn't hold me in my power. And I also found too that like, I was still starting my business and I was still figuring things out. And so it was like in the moments where I felt unsafe within entrepreneurship, like I would go and try to find that safety within a man because I couldn't cultivate that safety within myself. And what happened? I would go and find a man who couldn't give that to me and couldn't hold me in my power. So then this beautiful opportunity came to work oh my gosh. Wow. There's so much I could tell about this story. So my best friend Shika had invited me to come and work her women's retreat in Peru. And I thought, you know what? I'm feeling called to sit another dieta. I think it's time. And so with this trip to Peru, we had planned to travel around the Sacred Valley for a couple weeks, go and work this retreat, and then I would go and sit my dieta. So I packed up my bags. Well, I didn't pack up my bags, but I packed a bag to go and travel to Peru, with the plan of coming back to Costa Rica. Wow. I feel like there's aspects of the story that I've missed, but maybe I'll come back to them. Anyways, so I go to the Sacred Valley of Peru and I fall in love with these lands. Oh my gosh. The alpacas, the crafts, the culture, the locals here, the mountains, everything. It was just totally my vibe. And it's funny because Shika was hinting like, hey, you going to move here? And I was like, nah, like I've got my friends in Costa Rica. I'm finally like feeling good and solid and steady there. Like I'm not ready to leave Costa Rica. But it was really interesting because one of the great visions I had had in my first dieta come 2019 was this vision of me living in the mountains and living within community, food, forest, everything, having a healing center and raising my family on these lands. And it was funny because when I was and that's kind of the vision I've always been working towards. I'm still working towards. Like that vision is my North Star because that's ultimately what I want to create for my life. And so I remember when I got to the Sacred Valley, I was like, whoa, like these lands look a lot like my vision. And so after I worked the retreat, which was like amazing, it was so purposeful. It was so incredible. It was the first retreat I had ever supported or worked. And it was amazing to do it with my best friend. Then I went into my dieta, and I went back into the Amazon, and I sat at a different center this time, and I dieted Bobinsana. And it was night one, ceremony one with ayahuasca in this Bobinsana dieta, where the message was very clear. You're moving to Peru. And I was like, okay. So during this dieta with Bobinsana, to shortly share all of the magic that she had given me, was she really helped me find greater devotion within myself. And a lot of what this dieta had, and I'm going to keep some of these details sacred, was working on my relationship with the masculine, and not just externally, but the masculine within myself. So I came back from this dieta thinking that, I'll spend a couple more months in Costa Rica, tie up my life, and then move to Peru. Nah. That integration, she had me stay in Costa Rica for 9 more months. And there was so much death and rebirth that was held in that 9 months. But to share, basically, I came back from that dieta and I was like, okay, I'm really ready to go and devote deeper to my business, to devote deeper to my work, to devote deeper to myself, and to really heal this pattern that I had with the masculine. And I'll probably do a whole episode on that at some point. So I decided to completely go celibate. And this is intentional celibacy. So I was like, I'm going to go intentionally celibate until I feel I'm at a place where I'm ready to like welcome in a man again. So I started my celibacy journey. And, the guidelines I set for myself was, no kissing, no sexual touching, like nothing like that. I could definitely cuddle. We were in such a cuddly community, and that like human physical touch and connection, like with my friends, was definitely something I was going to welcome in. But this time was about me finding my own resources within myself to give myself the pleasure that I was seeking for others. This was my time to take that sexual energy and pour it back into myself, pour it back into my projects, pour it back into my creations. And yeah, it was just really this incredible time of going deep within myself and really looking at the places within me that wasn't anchored within sacred masculinity, like especially with my business. And it was hard, I had a hard time getting my business up and running. There were so many months where I didn't know how I was going to pay my rent. I was feeling really sad and lonely. A lot of things were coming up. With healing with the masculine, all the men in my life who had deeply wronged me or mistreated me, like all of that was coming up, and I felt, really lonely, and I had a really, really difficult time. And I just remember when can I move to Peru? When can I go there? Like, when can I start this new journey? And yeah, it had taken 9 months, which, as you all know, is the incubation period of a baby within a mother's womb until the baby is ready to come out into the world. So 9 months of pure death and rebirth. And a lot of during this time too, I was grieving more old versions of myself that just couldn't old patterns and old habits of myself that just really couldn't be a part of the next journey. And it was really hard, but eventually, I found someone who wanted to buy my car that I had bought in Costa Rica. I got the money I needed, and I moved to Peru. And, what else can I share? Through these 9 months, I had been getting a lot of downloads and insights as to what this Peru journey had for me. Wachuma, which is the medicine I work with here now, was talking to me so intensely, coming into my dreams, coming into my meditations, speaking about me, saying there's a huge initiation for me here with this medicine. This medicine is going to help me share my voice with the world. Like, I'm going to connect deeper to my prayer. And then I had all these psychics telling me your partner's in Peru. And so I was all excited for everything that was to come. And I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to move there And I'm just gonna, I'm gonna find my teacher. I'm gonna do all this and do all that. No. Spirit didn't work that way for me. I remember I got there and I had no idea the next level of death that was waiting for me. And so, yeah, like the first year of living on these lands, like I just remember, I'll just share some of the lessons that Peru has brought me. I feel like these lands had completely stripped me down to nothing in a way that I had never experienced before. I mean, talk about a fucking ego death. Like I was stripped down to nothing so that I could come back into my heart of where the service that I wanted to give this world, to give the conscious collective, to give to myself, to give to my life came within my heart, and to operate and move from that space. These lands taught me what abundance really is, and it actually has nothing to do with money. They showed me the abundance of community. They showed me the abundance of knowing the farmers who grow your food. They showed me the abundance of beautiful surroundings, the beautiful medicine, just everything, all of the gifts and the crafts and the kindness and all of it. Like these lands have really showed me like what it truly means to live to have a beautiful quality of life. And throughout this journey, I've made the most incredible friends, the most epic soul family. And yeah, I feel like, I stand here a year and a half later after moving to Peru, June of 2023. I've been here a year and a half now, and I can say that I am not the same woman that I was when I came to these lands. And I feel like in Costa Rica, I was really in this space where I was awakening my wild woman. I was really tapping into that wild woman archetype, running around naked, eating fruits off the trees, somatically connecting with my divine expression and just kind of, reawakening that primal way of being a woman. But then it was once I got to the Sacred Valley of Peru that it was time for me to step into more of a mother oracle archetype. And, the wild woman will always be a part of who I am. The tigress will always be a part of who I am. But now I feel like I'm really in this deeper space of stewarding more responsibilities, especially with my service and coming into greater responsibility with my life. And yeah, coming deeper into my own channel and deeper into my own oracle and seeing all in which the ways that I can share this with the world and create a safe space for people to discover their own inner oracle within themselves. And yeah, so throughout the last year and a half, there were many different things that happened. I decided to dive deeper into my channeling with the Akashic Records. I had been channeling the Akashic Records for a few years at that point, but I got offered this beautiful opportunity to deepen my training with my dear sister, Daniela Gill, who's amazing. I'll probably do a podcast episode about that as well. I also dove deeper into learning how to hold a safe space with medicine work. Mainly with Wachuma. I have embarked on a rose dieta. This was my third dieta, sitting with the rose. And, it was during this point with the rose dieta where I really feel like I stepped into greater leadership within myself. And I feel like I really got to hone in on how I wanted to lead my life. And I feel like she just really brought me into my inner queen, and she really taught me like what it means to be a divine feminine being. She dove me deep into the mystery of my heart. She helped me awaken and explore aspects of myself that I didn't even know were there. She helped me forgive a person that I was working years to forgive. She showed me how to forgive myself, how to have greater grace and compassion for myself. She showed me, deeper ways in which I can move with the earth and move with my natural rhythms and cycles of my own life and the natural rhythms and cycles of the earth. And it was just completely incredible. And it was after this Rose Dieta that I sat exactly a year after moving to Peru in June of 2024, that she presented me with this really beautiful invitation of completely devoting my service and my service and all of my offerings to her. And I accepted the invitation. And after that, I put Tigress Rising to rest and I birthed Tigrosa Collective, which is my service right now. And it's all in devotional service to the rose. So it's creating opportunities and holding a space for people to work with the teachings of the rose and for people to really initiate with her spirit. Because I don't know about you guys, but the rose be working and activating all over the world. Like, she is on a divine mission right now. And so I just feel like I have been chosen as one of the human fleshy meat suits to carry out her service and to carry out her leadership and create beautiful opportunities for people to experience her magic. And so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm still learning, you know, the ways of Wachuma and how rose and Wachuma work together. And for those who don't know what Wachuma is, I should have mentioned this before. It is a native psychoactive plant medicine cactus here that grows in the Sacred Valley of Peru. And he is known as the grandfather spirit. And he is a medicine of the heart. He brings you out of the egoic mind and into the depths of your heart, helping you connect deeper with Pachamama, deeper with your purpose, deeper with your emotions. He helps you heal your grief. He helps you heal any suppressed emotions you've got going on in there, and like really helps you just anchor into greater purpose and power and what true wealth and abundance is, and greater connection and synchronicity with Mother Earth. And he's also medicine of the stars and brings you deeper into your channel and the magic and the wisdom of the stars. And there's just so much wisdom that this medicine holds. And so yeah, I'm just on the path of learning the ways of this medicine and learning how rose and Wachuma work together as such a powerful team, and creating beautiful opportunities, especially retreats where people can come and they can sit with rose and they can sit with Wachuma and dive into the great mystery of their hearts and really open up a space to experience the incredible opportunities and infinite possibilities that are really here for you. I dove deeper into my studies with trauma-informed plant medicine integration, so I can just be the best bridge I can in helping people really integrate the wisdom and magic from these plant medicine ceremonies and really create the transformation that they want to see in their lives. And so it's like, I look back on this past year and a half of being here in Peru, and I've just received an abundance of gifts, an abundance of teachings, and an abundance of growth and evolution. And yeah, so now here I stand in my beautiful little house. I am the last house on top of the mountain. I call it Ankawasi, which is Quechua for eagle's nest. And yeah, just taking it one step at a time and continuing to follow the call of my soul, the call of my heart, and see how I can be of great service to this world, and see how I can share my gifts in this world in a way where people can really reach that own inner expansion that I have reached within the last 5 years. It's so funny because the very lands that opened up this door to me 5 years ago, I'm now living on, and I really see myself rooting here for the rest of my life and creating a family here and building community here. And continuing to just learn and have this beautiful exchange with the lands and with the spirits of the lands here. So that is the story of what the past 5 years have had for me. If you have stuck around to the end, wow, thank you so much for listening to this journey. And yeah, for those who are feeling the call to come to Peru and experience the magic of these lands, I've had the pleasure of meeting powerful medicine carriers, indigenous shamans, elders, just the most amazing experiences. And I work with Rose and Wachuma here. So if you want to come initiate with the Rose, experience Wachuma ceremonies, sweat lodge, indigenous despacho ceremonies, really feel the magic of the lands here, connect deeper with your prayer and connect deeper with your inner power, click that link below and book an activation call with me, and let's see what offering is here for you, because it would be my deepest honor and pleasure to welcome you to the magic of these lands. Thank you all so much for listening, and I'll see you next episode.